History repeats itself, and with the coming of another Elestriad season, the rematch between the Cryoscorch's Kaycreigh and the Emperor Watt's Trishula has been foretold. Under the new banners of Wind and Solar, both of these juggernaut casters are getting ready to face off once more. Making his commentator debut, I'm Aspira, and I'll be joining you as we witness the ferocity of the wind and the warmth of the sun's rays. Taking a momentary step back, look to the night sky as shattered stars, constellations, make their debut with Scorpio. This series features showcase Elestrals as constellations, with Toxion's gorgeous full art on deck. This series also debuts full art stadiums, with this beautiful Mount Olympus breaking the ice. I can't get over how badly I want this card. Stained glass treatments return, featuring spirits this time around. And of course, you can't forget about stellar chases like Reverse Stellar Jolton, X99 Serialized Stellar Arcolith, and X10 Serialized Stellar Phosphocell. Oh, and the common slot got an upgrade too, with those cards now coming in reverse holo. I can't get over how electrifying this month's packs are, and you should join me in subscribing for Shattered Stars over on shopelestrals.com. With that said, let's check in on our casters and see how they plan to tackle this fated rematch. Kay, where's the wind blowing?
Hello, it's your girl Kay here, and I'm joined by my assistant Kirby, who is a very decorated card player for those in the know, and I am here to give a little deck profile for this week. I'm going to be facing off against Trishula and Solar, which are two very terrifying things, especially when put together. And I am running something very similar to last week. A lot of the same general things going on here. The biggest difference is that because I'm no longer playing Frost, I was able to put in 3 Cryoblasts, but the basic principles are all the same. We have Nimisail and Quackle for healing. We have Boombat, Veratuka for removal of big boys, which Solar has a lot of big boys. We also have the standard rabbit, the rabbit that you must have, the rabbit of legend and lore. And Galaxair, theoretically, Coder told me that it was going to be good into this match, and if there's anything I'm going to do, it's believe Coder when he tells me to put cards in a deck. So here these are. We've also got Toxiswarm and Exaltair to be able to do some Nexus shenanigans. Last time I was able to do some fun stuff with Exaltair and Nimisail, and I would like to do more of that. I think that would be very fun. Standard runes going on here. Got my one of Laurels, one of Earthquake, of course, my boy Aeolus hanging out with us, and those Cryoblasts that I mentioned earlier. Other than that, Kirby, do you have anything to add? Very interesting. Thank you. Okay, and with that, I think she likes the list. Thank you all so much for watching the deck profile, and wish me luck!
Looks like Kirby's nose is pointing to a thunderous storm for this clash, as Kay opts into a Thunder Wind mid-range strategy. A lot of built-in healing should provide this deck with the staying power needed to stave off any beatdown strategies that may be coming her way. The lack of Gorgon's Gaze in the main deck, alongside the triple splash Cryoblast, being a big indicator of what she's expecting Trish to bring to this clash. Mentioning the Solar Caster, let's check in with Trish and see if Kay's predictions will come to shine down on the battlefield.
Hello, Elestriad viewers. It is me, the Wizard, once again returning to play against my rival, Kaycreigh, this season in Elestriad. Last season, we were defeated, unfortunately, by her powerful Earth strategy, and we are once again expecting to get defeated by her powerful Wind strategy. So, apologies to Trishula for my probable loss. However, I will do my best to take her down this season, and hopefully we will advance to the top 8 competitors with our Solar strategy. Without further ado, let's get into our deck profile. We play our signature Trod, the 3... Oh, wait, why are these upside down? Anyway, we play our signature card, the 3 Astravit. Oh, it feels so good. I love you, Astravit. No need to explain. It is a good card. It stays up my sleeve all the time. But then we play a new card. A card that is not often seen in Solar. We play the Viscaris. Viscaris, very good card. because it is a 5, and 5 good number. And so we play the Viscaris. Viscaris, very, very strong. It is a 5, and it beats over many of Kaycreigh's Elestrals. If she chooses to play something like Healstall, this will be a very cool card, but also it enables our Lustragon strategy quite well by allowing us to kill another Elestral and play a Solar Viserys on our board that we can ascend over later. Then we play another 5. We play Lumaru. Oh, Lumaru. We love the number 5. That's all it does. But now, for my next trick, I will reveal to you not 1, not 2, but 3 Stellar Dratara. Dratara says heal 2 spirits from our grave, which will be very powerful against my beard is in my mouth. That's disgusting. So they use the 2 spirits, which will be very good if she decides to play something like Healstall, and will help keep us alive, keep us in the game, also against cards like Exaltair. For the other Solars, we play the 2 Corvi Shine, the 2 Exaltis, our 1 pretty Lustragon, and our 1 ugly Lustragon. I do not like you because you are not stellar. And a new addition, we play our 1 Stellar Plucky. It's stellar! Yay! Stellar Plucky! We play 3 Apollo, 2 Cryoblast, 1 Earthquake, 1 Resting, 3 Ambrosia, 3 Altar of Star, 3 Jorgon's Chase, 3 Poison Tip Arrow, and 2 Tsunami. Very strong card, very good. Wizard approved. No shield. No shield. For our spirit deck, we play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. So 11. Luminate. We play 3 Zephyr, 3 Teratlis, 2 Leviathan, and 1 Floramine. So similar to last week's ratios, except these 2 are now swapped. It's part of my magic. It's fun. It's whimsical. Go along with it. And then for our side, we play the 2 Kaufmel. For the heal deck, we play the 2 Edward. We play the 3 Bat that Booms. We play 2 of the Whale. The Whale is very funny. We play the 1 Peegleave. This probably should have been the 3rd Poison Tip Arrow, but I forgot what to side, so I put this in because it is a Stellar. And then I play the 2 Temple in case for some reason her guys are bigger than a number 3. 2 Shield of Achilles, and 1 Leviathan in case I regret playing Viscaris. And that's the debt. Hopefully the wizard will win. And hopefully we'll have a magical clash.
The Wizard audibles in for Trishula this week and playing into the beatdown strategy that Kay expected. However, he has some tricks up his sleeve, as we have a number of cards teched explicitly to counter heal strategies. Viserys represents 2 bodies for 1 if unanswered the turn it comes down, making it very difficult to 1-for-1 the deck while it continues applying pressure. And can we talk about the stellar lineup of Lumaru, Dratora, Plucky, and more? Solar is shining extremely bright in today's forecast. Without further ado, let's jump into this round 2 clash of the Elestriad. And we kick off this first game of this best of 3 clash with Solar kicking it off, setting 1 and expending a Luminape to draw a card. We do see here that Trishula wants to be a beatdown strategy. We see all those 5s in the deck, and early on being able to expend 1 to draw and then try to go for that 1-for-1 beatdown strategy will really lean to his benefit. Here we do see expend to draw from Kaycreigh as well. Not something that you love to see as the player going second, just because if the 5 strategy, the beatdown strategy, is able to get ahead in terms of spirits on board and pressure, and especially since they're so good at playing that 1-for-1 game, it can really put you on the back foot, especially when we see here that Kay only has 1 card, but Poison Tipped Arrow is a really good card to get it started. Does 2 things here against the Astral Rabbit. Will put it down to 0 attack, meaning that it cannot deal spirit damage as is. and obviously will be able to get rid of itself on the board if Kay pays the additional 1. Astrabbit going off and netting a card at the very least, so Trishula will have that card back in hand, not losing out anything, and then swing for 0. Kay here taking 0, and then paying the 1 for the poison-tipped arrow to get rid of the rabbit on the board. And then here we see 2 Wind to go into Nectar of the Gods, drawing 2 additional cards. With that early expend to draw on Kay's side, I'm sure that we're digging for some gas here. So hopefully, now being 3 cards deeper than how we started the game, be able to find some things. We do see a Thunder Spirit here coming down for Kay. A lot of options here. Could be the Rabbit, could be the Quackle. Very nice here. So replenishing some of that expenditure that we got early in the game for drawing cards and putting us in a pretty neat spot depending on if we have any interaction to follow through. Poison-tipped arrow will follow suit. If you do it, I will do it too. Monkey see, monkey do. And we do see here that we will get the replenish from the Quackle, but very similar situation to the Astrabbit that was played in the previous turn. Will not be able to deal spirit damage. From there, we will simply pass turn, no back row, which can be very terrifying in this position. And then we will be paying the 1 solar to get rid of said Quackle using the poison-tipped arrow. Now we come down with a massive Apollo coming down here with 4 solar, which isn't surprising given how much of a linchpin card Apollo can be the strategy. It ups the consistency of the deck and obviously has some combination plays with the foretelling aspects of Solar. Here we see Viserys and other cards going back to the top of the deck, and then we got Jatora here with the setup of the Apollo being able to Nexus here. Will do 2 big things: be able to swing for 2 damage, which is massive, and be able to start healing up some spirits here. So when the beatdown strategy also has the backbone of being able to heal turn over turn over turn, it really starts to get scary here. No response, 2 back rows set, and now Kay is in a very precarious situation. Naturally, this board position allows her to do things like resting on your laurels and anything of the sort to kind of make a mount a comeback. But the 2 back row, when representing the fact that she had none the previous turn, does indicate that she is in for a little bit of a tough time at the moment. Nevertheless, she does have the spirits to make it happen. We do pay 1 wind here and see what we've got. The resting in our laurels. So the setup to get rid of this Ratara on the board, but it's kind of a precarious situation because, like, yes, it represents 2 spirits, and yes, it's very spooky, but and the Altar of Stars here to Nexus away. And what we're essentially doing here is we're trading away the spirit on the Jatora to be able to net 1 spirit back on the Apollo. Very interesting play here, opting to not want to use it as a battle trick, but instead use the card to be able to net 1 spirit. And now on K side, we see the Toxic Swarm, which hopefully will get down this spirit difference between the 2. Trishula will be going down to 13, and if unanswered, will be going down to 12. But of course, a virtual 15 here, if that's the case, when we consider the Apollo and the 3 solar under it. We will be taking it, pitching 1 of our water, but then answering with Viserys, which of course will see itself with its effect and be a beefy 5 attacker. Will attack over into this Toxic Swarm unanswered, and thus will bring out another big chonker. And here's one of those situations where Trish can very comfortably bring out a solar enchanted one to then bring out the Lestragon afterwards, which can be very scary. And here we see hopefully some answer, and hey, we've got that invoke response. Whatever we don't have encounter runes, we do have in invoke runes for Kaycreigh here, having the 2 to be able to take out 1 of the Viserys ops to take out the defensive Viserys, which makes a lot of sense. If you're not able to deal with 1 of them, we're in a position where the solar enchanted one is much scarier because of Lestragon. And then we see the Cryoblast follow-up. Oh my god. So Kay's strategy here of very much having everything to be able to answer with the beatdown deck coming to fruition here. What we don't have in the form of counter runes, we have in the form of invoke runes. So Trishula down to 10 spirits with a virtual 13 now based on what's on board. And then we see the Nemesail here being able to heal Kay back up to 12. And by 12, I do mean 11. And by 11, I do mean None, given the Gorgon's Gaze answer here. Very easy to fire this off, knowing that Kay has been light on counter runes this entire game, and thus is probably the only play that she's looking to make here, which does mean that Trishula has the opportunity to be able to put her on the back foot by being able to apply pressure by putting big bodies on board. And here we do see the Exaltus coming down, being able to Nexus 2 Solar to search our deck for a Celestial Elestral and add it to the hand. And this ability to go 1 for 1 is exactly what you want to do against this heal strategy so that you can eventually outpace all of their removal. And so we grab the Jatora and then move it back onto our main phase. And then we see here the Ambrosia coming in and refreshing ourselves with a few spirits here, putting us in a position where we're now up on the spirits 2k once we account for this combat, where we will just crash and then call it a day. And of course we have the setup in our hand via the Exaltus to have the follow-up play. So we're perfectly fine trading 1 for 1 here, effectively using our Exaltus as a search/removal spell, and then moving on over to Kay's turn, where she puts 3 down, presumably for the Aeolus. So here comes the Wind Divine, allowing her the opportunity to be able to use 2 of those spirits to be able to search the deck for precisely what she needs. And here, you know, a lot of different options. Were there an Elestral on the board, could find some removal. Here we're just going to find another Nemesail, putting ourselves in a position to have a body and then heal some spirits along the way. So we'll pay the 1, go down to 5, and then play out the Nemesail, and we'll see if there is a response this time from Trish. And if not, then we'll go ahead and heal 2, sending ourselves back up to 7. No! We say no. Gorgon's Gaze after Gorgon's Gaze here, preventing the heal and letting this Nemesail just sit down there, presumably to take some damage going into the next turn. Very rough position here. We do have the 1 for the Ambrosia here, so Kay gonna get her healing one way or another, just not as deep healing as she would have wanted. And then a pass over without any back row. This does open up Trishula to be able to do some massive damage. We're going to see an Exaltair once again here, and we will see a Nexus over, being able to search ourselves another Elestrals from the deck for some follow-up. And of course, we can crash once more, and this crash obviously dealing 1 damage to Kay. So we'll see if we're deciding to expend that here. It does look like we're going to crash in, and then we're going to make that 1 spirit differential here for the 1 damage. Tough position, but the spirit counts are close. Of course, Trishula has had follow-up after follow-up, with those Exaltus being able to set up his hand every follow-up turn, presumably to prepare him for what's to come on Kay's side. But a couple of swings here and there, a couple of strong draws in turn of being able to answer what Trish has coming down, especially if we account for some burn. The more burn that we see here between Exaltair and between some more Toxic Swarms like we're seeing right here could be very spooky depending on if Trish answers or not. So here we can see the Nexus can burn for damage and then put ourselves in a position where we're able to deal the 2 damage with the Exaltair with the swing. So extremely spooky here. We will get the Nexus. Let's see if there is a response. If you Gorgon's Gaze this, you're still burning the 2, but effectively saving yourself some damage. So we'll see what happens here. Could potentially Tsunami as well. And the Gorgon's Gaze, which, hey, you're still burning the 2. And at 3 for 3, absolutely crazy. You still burn the 2 from Trishula's side, but of course you're saving yourself on 1 spirit from anything else that Kay might be opting to do. So we see the other Ambrosia here. So the heal deck is gonna get its heals. And here we see the 2 wind, 3 wind over for Kay here on the heal side. So the spirit differential spooky, but of course Exaltair isn't all that big. But Trishula doesn't have a lot of play spirit-wise. So it remains to be seen what his options are available. He's at a 4, a virtual 5 if we account for the Apollo on deck. Rabbit will do a good job here of being able to dig, find some couple of things, and maybe hold off. There's a real world where without the Aeolus, you're not able to find any of your wind Elestrals that are maybe able to break through on this Rabbit. And then the Cryoblast, huge putting Trish down to 2, but we'll take out this Exaltair, and now the onus is on Kaycreigh to be able to find the answer here. We'll pay the 1, go down to 1, refresh onto 3 with this Ambrosia. What a clutch timing for that card, and we'll give Trish a little bit of breathing room between the big 5 defensive stat of the Aster Rabbit and those 4 spirits, the virtual 5 with the Apollo in a cozy position. Oh no, so here we see the expend to draw. We'll be able to dig a little bit deeper, hopefully find some way to deal with this rabbit, but none of the invoke runes that Kay has currently available will be able to help. We know that the Earthquake is gone, the Cryoblasts don't help here, and oh my god, the Dratora. So now we're in a position where Trish is going to be able to apply pressure, has 1 set on Kay's side, so maybe there's something there to be able to prevent this from being able to pop off, but we're going to see. Oh, considering on the enchant here, we're going to put it on our, the Jatora is going to get the spirit, and then obviously we're going to get the healing here, and tough position. I mean, we swing here, if we swing all out, we're now dealing 3 spirit damage, putting Kay down to 3. If she responds, she's kind of like taking the damage here anyways, but now the, attack position, Rabbit is only 2 attack, better position here to maybe be able to deal with that. Jatora is not passively huge, but it really will only take 1 strong counter rune response here from Trishula to potentially be able to close out the game. We opt here to shield. Wow, so instead of taking the 2 damage just outright, we're going to shield it back to hand, which is effectively taking the 2, but now we're not dealing with the Jatora just chilling on board, and we did cost Trish essentially a spirit there in that trade. And here we are going to see the Altar of Stars. What a powerful play here, saying I'm going to lose my card anyways. I'm going to keep that spirit here, and this is a textbook lesson on spirit economy. Trading a card that may or may not be a big decider in terms of how this rabbit gets dealt versus being able to upkeep our spirit count and put ourselves in a position to have a differential that's huge, right? So here Boom Bat will come down, puts K down to 2, and we do deal with the rabbit, but now we only have 2 left, which doesn't put us in a great position to be able to deal with what the opponent has. Hopefully find some healing, maybe find some kind of way to be able to stave off, but here if we take 1 more damage, if we use a shield here, it's going to cost at minimum 2, and that's going to be all that she wrote in terms of being able to allow Kay to make additional plays from there. We see the Jatora, then we see the follow-up Apollo here, so now Trish is going to be able to heal up additional spirits, is going to be able to deal that 2 damage now, and there's very little here on Kay's side that will be able to respond with what's going on here, so we're going to follow through the motions. We're going to get some healing here on the Jatora side, get the 2 Luminapes, and then we will have the concession here going on to game 2. It is always really tough to tell where these games will land when you deal with decks like Kay that have all this healing, but Trish showed a phenomenal amount of class in terms of how he managed the cards that he wants to utilize for removal versus that spirit efficiency. You're playing against a deck here that has a lot of means to refresh your spirits, and as such, even though you're the beatdown deck, you need to take every inch that you can to get as much value out of your spirits as possible. So utilizing those Altar of Stars to be able to keep onto those spirits and be able to apply pressure elsewhere, and just kind of playing it out in a way where we're being as efficient as possible pays a lot of dividends in the end, even if these games come out to being as close as they did. With that said, the game was extremely close, so let's see if a couple of changes at the sideboard and an understanding of what each opponent is playing with will show a change of the winds. Let's check out game 2. Kicking it off into this game 2, and Kay actually opting to go second here in this best of 3 match. Opting to keep what I think is a finicky hand, but we'll see if it pays off for her. And then Trish starting off with the classical turn 1 rabbit. You love to see it. Find ourselves a card in our hand to replace it, and then have a defensive body and 1 back row. Here we're going to see the 2 with the full art Nectar of the Gods, drawing 2 additional cards here. Putting ourselves ahead on cards in hand. Let's see how Kay will respond. Potentially maybe wanting to go second because of the heavy invoke runes we have in our deck to potentially be able to deal with any bodies that Trishula would put down. Unfortunately, a rabbit isn't dealt that cleanly with any of the invoke runes besides Earthquake available to Kay at the moment, but Boom Bat will definitely do that job to be able to go 1 for 1. It's a tough 1 for 1, however. Of course, the rabbit is a body that you have to get rid of. It sticks around for much too long and doesn't get easily answered by really most of the bodies available to Kay, besides like Verituka. So it has to be dealt with, but Boom Bad is especially feels bad when you're dealing with Rabbit because you've 1-for-1 your opponent, but they netted a card because of the Ash Rabbit effect anyways. So your opponent is still up on card economy when you're making that kind of trade. Thankfully, we did see Nectar of the Gods here, being able to keep K's hand high. So we'll see if we're able to keep a follow and follow. We do have one set, so we'll see how we'll be able to answer that. But nevertheless, we do see the Plucky here coming down. A 1 for Solar Elestral. When you normal cast this Plucky, you can search your deck for a Divine Rune and add it to your hand. Apollo being a phenomenal card for this strategy. Here, we're only going to enchant a small 3 spirit count here to Foretell and Poison Tipped Arrow, and Corvashine. Will be adding the Corvashine to our hand and then putting the Poison Tipped Arrow. So Kay, knowing that her spirits on board are going to have a very tough time in the subsequent turns because Trish will have those Poison Tipped Arrows in his back pocket to be able to deal with anything that he might deem a little too spooky. So the Plucky here got in for 1 damage, but of course is only a small 1 attacker. So even this Quackle unanswered will be able to fight over it. So Quackle here getting that healing, exactly what Kay wants, be able to start staving off some of that early damage from drawing and from being able to take in that early chip damage. So back up to 18, that heal 3 is such a huge number. Ambrosia on a body, not too shabby. And then here we do have the opportunity to be able to attack over this Plucky, assuming Trish has no way to answer this Quackle. And then we do have the 1 set, but we do see the Tsunami coming to see play here, which will set both of these Elestrals in defense position. Quackle being a 3 does put it right in range for, oh my god, the Viserys is huge here. Devastating, really. And depending on what Kay has in her back row, may or may not align well with what we're seeing here. So we will see the attack with the Viserys going into our Spirit deck here, considering what our options may be. And it does seem like we have the shield brought in here to deal with this Viserys. It hurts because we're going to have to deal with this Viserys anyways coming the next turn. And of course, the Plucky's in defense, which means it's not exactly like Quackle can get any value here. So we're going to have to find another answer to Viserys coming down on the board, which is extremely spooky here. And it's not like we can get any value of our Quackle ahead of time. So we're going to draw for turn here and see if Kay can find anything. We do see a Lycurgus here hit the board with the follow-up. I mean, a lot of different Wind Elestrals that can make some damage here. We see the Nemesail, so we're going to lean more into that healing. Going to pay the 1, and on receive, heal those 2 Wind Spirits. So we're giving ourselves a bit of a gap, which is important, but there's the Poison Tipped Arrow. And we know that there's more of those to come. So the Nemesail here is going to get its heal off, and then presumably Trish is going to pay the remaining spirit at the end of the turn to get rid of the Nemesail, providing only 1 body for Viserys to have to break through. And of course, this Nemesail can't really swing in and do much of anything from there, even if it were a little bit chunkier. So we'll pay the 1 here. There goes the Nemesail, pass it goes. Quackle in defense means that we're not going to take spirit damage for the passing of this Quackle, but it's still a spooky position. We have 1 set. I mean, it could probably, who knows? Maybe it's a Poison Tipped Arrow, but we're not entirely sure. And this is where things get really scary. Viserys comes down. We've got the Plucky going up. And then, of course, another Viserys is going to join here. And if it's a solar enchanted Viserys, then we're going to see a potential Lestragon follow down. So this is very scary, especially with the Apollo back row, which provides Lestragon with the Nexusing outlet it needs. We see the Viserys come down here. And then we know the Poison Tipped Arrow is there as well. So extremely spooky. Here, we're actually just going to opt into the Earth Viserys here, giving us more outlets that if we're able to get through there, and we'll take that damage, go ahead and draw, and then pay the Frost here, so presumably a Cryoblast coming through. So we do know that Kay is extremely invoke heavy in her strategies here, so being able to take a benefit of some of these stat lines for this beatdown deck on the Wizards side. So now, what are we going to do? We're in a very tough position where our opponent is representing a very scary Viserys. A Plucky there that's just kind of sitting around. We do have the Verituka. Very interesting. So, a 3-1 when this attacking Verituka enters battle with an attack position Elestral that has an equal or fewer enchanting spirits, you can suppress it and destroy it. And if you do, this very too good deals no battle damage. So kind of a removal tool here. So we will see the poison tipped arrow. So Trish very much saying, I get it, cool, you're able to get things off my board, but I will make sure that you never have anything on your board. Now granted, Kay does have that spirit differential, which helps a lot. We do see a 14 to 8 spirit count on both sides, but if she's never able to remain aboard, then it is very tough for her to be able to kind of sustain much of anything, especially when Trish has a virtual 9 when you account for the Apollo and will be dealing 2 to 3 damage every turn, especially given that Kay doesn't have a lot of counter runes in the list to be able to counteract what we're seeing here. So we now see the Gorgon's Gaze kind of be there. We'll go ahead and add that to our hand, and then presumably the Gorgon's Gaze is going to sit on top. So this Apollo, and it really goes to speak to the ability to be able to stack the top of your deck turn over turn is extremely powerful, because you up that consistency, you up what you're going to be able to see. We see the Corvus Shine here with 1 Enchanting Solar. We'll be able to foretell 2 and then stack the deck in the way they want. So obviously be able to apply pressure, and then see 2 back row in the back. So, spirit math wise, you think, all right, Kay's kind of in a comfortable position, but we're facing off 2 Elestrals. We're facing off 2 back row. We know that there's Gorgon's Gaze coming down the next turn as well, and it just puts us in a really tough position. If with the Corvus Shine, the Gorgon's Gaze could actually just be on the board right now, as Corvus Shine will allow for a draw and then place back on top of the deck. So very tough position here, but not a lot of spirits on Trishula's side in terms of being able to make this game drawn out. Depends on how much healing Trishula will see. And then obviously Kay forcing out the heal every turn. It's not so much about winning as it is about not losing, and then potentially just finding the chip damage to be able to close out the game, which we can find with things like Toxic Swarm and Exaltair. So the lines do exist. Here we will see the Gorgon's Gaze here preventing Kay to heal, and it's costly, right? It doesn't cost nothing. This puts down Trish to 4, but what you're really trading is the tempo and preventing Kay from being able to heal. Preventing that heal lowers her clock, because every time we get a Quackle or an Nemesail, it's effectively buying Kay another turn, which when we're accounting for that spirit differential can make it very tough. So here we go back up to 5 because of the Ambrosia, very clutch here. And then we find ourselves with the Camel coming down. So tech explicitly for this matchup, Trish did bring it up in his deck profile. Calf-Mel here, a 3/4, and then when you ascend this Calf-Mel or is destroyed, you can return a triple spirit in any combination of solar or lunar from your underworld to your spirit deck. So kind of a body that can help counteract the healing your opponent is doing. Hey, you're going to deal with this, well then I'll get a little healing myself. And then funny enough, the 3 stats can actually line up pretty decently with a lot of the heal Elestrals on the heal deck side, having 2 to 3 attack depending on which one is played out. So here we see the Galaxair first time here in this match, and then Galaxair being a one-shot ability to be able to swap the stats of an Elestral on the board, as opposed to Galaxy, which is kind of like just, lingering there for the entire board, depending on if they're water. Galaxair is much more of a targeted removal, very much in theme for what WIND wants to do. And then we do see the Ambrosia here to heal back up. We're going to see the swing here, and down goes the Calf-Mel here trading, but then we will get that proc of the triple heal here for Trish, and that must feel so good. Effectively not only dealing 1 2k here, but then getting that 3 refresh. Then we will get the re-enchant here of the Corvus Shine, now being able to dig 3 cards deep into our deck and then draw and place 1 back on top. So that Tsunami here could very much prevent a K from mounting a comeback. You get the Tritora for the follow-up plays in the next turn. A lot of different things that Trish can opt to do here, and of course could just leave all 3 back in the top of the deck depending on how much he likes his hand. Sets 1, presumably that's the Tsunami here, and this is where the tempo really starts coming together, making all those tempo plays and pushing Kay down to 7 spirits. So now we're equal spirits, but of course Trish has the immense board pressure at the moment between the Corvus Shine, the Plucky, the Apollo. So a 7 but virtual 10 here on his side, or 11, what's counting. And we do see the Boom Bat. So trading 1 spirit here for effectively 2, depending on if we go for the Corvus Shine, but then what will be the response follow-up after that. So we'll deal the 1, could potentially be Gorgon's Gazed, I guess, or nope, there we go. We see the play once more here, trading the altar to be able to keep that spirit on board, and it's very important because it effectively makes it so that your clock is effectively almost the same. Instead of dealing 3 damage, instead of dealing 4 damage next turn, you're just going to be able to deal 3, assuming you're able to get something else on board. So we'll go ahead and see here. We will Apollo one more time, try to find ourselves another body here. We do know what most of the top of their deck was looking like, so probably just digging for that Jatora anyways, which will mean that we'll be able to deal the same amount of damage once we play it out. But of course, we get a little bit of heal to make our lead a little bit more unsurmountable here. So we will get the Nexus over. This will give us the heal over on the solar side. Get those 2 back. Go up to 8 spirits. And putting Trishula in a very comfortable position. Kay, no back row here. Here, the not having the counter runes, unfortunately, in the deck to really be able to answer what's coming through. 3 damage, getting Kay down to 3 with Trishula in a healthy 8 spirit. It's a tough position here, but we'll see if there's some sort of way to be able to break through. Depending on what the back row is looking like, there is room for maybe a big chunky spirit here to make the difference. So we will pay the 1 here. We will get out the Ambrosia, gets us back up to 5, so a little bit more room to play here. Potentially buys us another turn depending on what's happening, but it's very tight here. We'll have to see. We do pay the 2. Presumably this is going to be an Aeolus. Here he comes down, being able to tutor anything we want out of the deck, but we're back down to 3, so this is a very spooky position. We do have the benefit of being able to search out whatever we want from the deck, so we find ourselves a Nemesael, being able to buy us effectively another turn. It's a body, which means it'll prevent a little bit of damage. It'll heal for 2, which could put us in a position to be able to last longer. But if we see a Gorgon's Gaze here, then there'll be no healing, and then the stats on the board mean that it's probably a closeout situation here. Let's see what Trish decides to do. We get the Nemesael out. We are looking through our underworld here, and it does look like we're going to allow that to resolve. We're going to get our 2 wind, and now we're in a position where we're chilling with 2. Can't potentially attack, though. Tsunami could be real here. Trading the Jatora here would be nice, but unfortunately we do see Tsunami, which is like, hey, if we were going to play it in defense anyways, it kind of does very similar things. Might as well have tried to trade and net some spirit advantage on our part. But with that said, no back row. We will see the Apollo back over on Trisha with the start of his turn, upping that consistency, adding another Nexus to be able to get more spirits on board for damage. So here you just need to deal with the Nemesael, and then obviously we will see the Nexus over to be able to deal that additional points of damage. So here we're just looking into our deck, looking what to foretell over to our hand, and then putting the rest back down over. We are going to Exaltus here, putting another body, and it's not just another body, it's the ability to be able to Nexus on board. So taking from this Apollo and making it so the Spirit Math will effectively shut down the game potentially. Okay, so we will see here the Nexus over into the Apollo, into those heals, and then presumably moving those over with the Exaltus back over to the Jatora here, and being able to search our deck. Here we go. We'll just take that. Looks like we wanted that Jatora. And then we'll be going over, switching that into attack, swinging on over, and then dealing the 4, which of course with 0 spirits left in Spirit deck puts Kay in a position to no longer being able to play out any cards, spelling the end of this match. It is always so incredibly hard to tell where these matches go when you're dealing with such heal-heavy strategies. But today, Trish put on a clinic in terms of how dealing with the matchup, not only teching in bodies like Viserys, which can be very annoying for these one-for-one strategies to deal with, but secondarily by making plays like altering for the stars to be able to save spirits on board and just maximizing on that spirit efficiency. Between that and the balance of just having the powerful nexusing effects of solar to be able to heal, check from our deck, gain cards, and making sure that we're always up in our ability to do follow through and play additional Elestrals and answer what our opponent is doing. Honestly, a phenomenal display from Trishula, and look, Kay held on and honestly was a nail biter end after end, especially when Win has the ability to be able to use burn Elestrals like Exalter, like Toxic Swarm, and honestly, it really could have went either way just depending how the removal lined up. But with that, Trishula jumps over to round 3, pushing Solar even further into this tournament. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for another round of the Elestriad Season 3.